Today I've decided to talk about, as the title has no doubt clued you in on, an individual Sith Lord who, while his name is probably well known amongst many of you, especially if you're any kind of fan of Darth Bane or Drew Karpyshyn, even still, he's probably more on the, I'd say, sidelines of anyone's thoughts. And that's to be understood, frankly, because not a lot is said about him. In fact, most of his life is just kind of garnered through the wiki. Because, quite frankly, all of his backstory mostly comes from the Bane books. And even then, the Bane books just kind of like, oh, here's Kaan, and he came, blah, 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 blah. Here's why, who gives a shit? And he's also expanded upon in some chronologies. But even then, you have to garner most of his personality and attitude from the way he acted in the first, the way he acted in the first Bane book and the second Bane book. But that might have just been hallucination because everyone knows Darth Bane was on drugs. He had to be, considering that he cosplayed as the Fire Nation at one point. But I digress. Okay, so Lord Kaan. Let's just put that out there. I could be expectant and just make a Kaan, Wrath of Kaan joke here, but I won't. Mostly because I don't like Star Trek. But, still, his name is Kaan, K-A-A-N, because, K-H-A-N would be too literal, for real life anyways. His first name is Skier, which, if I'm being totally 100% honest with you people, I did not know until just like a couple years ago, which, considering his character has been out longer than a couple years, is kind of embarrassing. I decided to talk about him because I figure that there's a lot of Sith Lords out there that I'm working on another project right now, and you guys will see it probably in a couple weeks because it's taking a lot more editing than I want it to. But you'll see why I'm bringing it up. But what I want to say is, YouTube is full of a lot of people who want to tell you guys the history, the lore, the blah 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 of Star Wars. And that's fine and dandy, but I get the sensation that a lot of them are doing it simply because it's cool. Simply because it's going to get them a lot of views. And it's just like, okay, how many times do I need to hear someone tell me the story of Darth Revan? How many times do I need to hear someone tell me the story of Darth Vader? How many times do I need to hear someone tell me the tragedy of Darth Plagueis? And all of them have their own dramatic sense. All of them have their own way of expressing the story of a certain Sith Lord. And while I am not fully out of this realm, I do tell you guys the story of a Sith Lord. I'd like to think, I suppose is what I should say. I'd like to think I'm a little different. Not only because my channel is so dirt low and so low on the Richter scale, it doesn't even register. But also because I like to imagine that I'm actually, considering a Sith Lord and what they could have been and what they did, as opposed to just telling you their story and kind of philosophizing on how important they were. I can tell you how important Darth Bane was, but I'm not going to sit here and fucking, dictate to you just how, grand and important he was to the history of all Star Wars, because he did this and because he did that, because all things are connected. It's monotonous at some point to just tell you. I'm not explaining this very well, but it's monotonous to hear over and over again who was Darth Revan? Why did Revan do this? Why did Revan do that? Why? Here, I'll tell you why. Did, Jabba the Hutt rape a woman? It's just like, get off it already. Who cares? I'm not going to go there, but can we talk about something else for once? And the only thing that keeps me talking about stuff sometimes is the fact that I want to talk about it. I want to hear and more see what you people have to say, considering a character within Star Wars Legends that actually interests me. I don't want to just tell you guys, here's Darth Revan, here's what he did, go fuck yourself, watch my video, get me money. No. I want to discuss things with you guys, with people. I like I like seeing your comments and I don't respond always in a timely fashion, but I do enjoy seeing people agree or disagree, hopefully in a calm and orderly fashion with me. And Kaan, I want to bring up because, first of all, not a lot of people bring up Kaan, which is kind of understandable. Like I said, he's on the sidelines of a lot of Star Wars mythos and within the minds of Sith fans, even, because, as I have mentioned multiple times in other Sith Lord videos, he kind of bastardized the Order into this neo-quasi-dark Jedi Order more than a Sith Order. But let's not, like, kick him out fully. He accomplished some shit that some Sith Lords didn't, who I hold in higher respect. Exar Kun. I mean, to be fair, Exar Kun and Ula Kildroma did attack Coruscant twice. But there's not a lot of information on what they did. Lord Kaan probably came closest to actually conquering the Republic through sheer force of arms than any other Sith, including Vitiate and his fucking stupid-ass empire. Mostly because Revan was in his mind, but let's not go there again. I have a whole slew of new Vitiate slurs. Okay, so the backstory. As there must always be, Kaan was originally a Jedi, supposedly born on Coruscant. As a commoner, dirt poor, became a Jedi because of his Force sensitivity and became a master of battle meditation. Interesting how a lot of people who become masters of battle meditation end up kind of not always falling, but kind of flirting with the dark side. Nomi Sunrider being kind of the outcast in that regard. She didn't ever really fall to the dark side. I mean, she had like a moment of darkness with killing the criminals on Ambria, but that's different. I'm mostly talking about Bastila here. Okay, but he became a master of battle meditation, and he was considered invaluable to the Jedi, because we're talking about the waning years of the Galactic Dark Ages, the 1,000 year period of the new Sith Wars, and if you need to be reminded of what they are, essentially, sometime around 2000 before the Battle of Yavin, there was the third great no, sorry, not the third, the fourth. The third was this weird event. The fourth great schism within the Jedi Order, in which the Jedi Phineas, however you want to say his name, no wonder he changed it to Darth Ruin. It was an Umbrian Jedi Master, considered one of the lost Jedi because he reached the level of being a master. He fell to the dark side. No, he didn't really fall. The thing about Darth Ruin that's always interested me is that he kind of just chose the dark side. He barely has any lore talked about him, but he is immensely important. But he chose the dark side. He left the Order. He took a bunch of Jedi with him, and they rounded up a bunch of the old remnants of the Sith Empire, you could say from Vitiates. We're not sure how that story ends, so we don't know, but there were a lot of remnants of Sith-like peoples and cultures throughout the galaxy. He united them, and he created the new Sith Empire. The new Sith Empire went to war with the Galactic Republic, as it always does, and apparently Darth Ruin was so crazy and messed his apprentices up so badly, within the vein of Darth Treya, except, like, according to his creator, breaking the mold in that regard, which is kind of a scary thought. They murdered him eventually, and as with any good Sith Empire, once the Emperor is murdered, the whole damn thing falls apart. And then the galaxy undergoes this 1,000 year period, the new Sith Wars, in which there are multiple wars, not just one big war, multiple wars over a 1,000 year time period where the Republic is constantly at war with warlords, fiefdoms, mini-empires, kingdoms. I mean, if you just look at some of the stuff that comes out of the Republic Dark Ages, it looks weird. I mean, there are Sith Lords who look like Disney princesses on crack, which, considering who now owns Star Wars, is kind of redundant, but they look weird, okay? There are Sith Lords like the Daemonate and the, what is it? Oh, I always forget what his stupid brother is. Odionate, I think? One Sith Lord thinks that he is the incarnation of death, and one Sith Lord thinks he's the incarnation of life. That's the whole Knight Errant novel stuff. And, then we get the Dark Underlord, who some people think is the reincarnation of Zendor, of all people. I don't know why Zendor would be reincarnated or come back to life as a Sith Lord, but let's not even get into that one. I mean, by retcon point of view, Zendor actually met the three from fucking Mortis, and that just doesn't make any sense, but let's not go there. I'm trying to stay on point. But during the Dark Ages, we got such figures as Darth Ryvan, who might get a video later. Oh god, what was that one Sith Lord's name? It's slipping. It was right there. It was slipping. Oh no, it's gone. But we got Darth Ruin, we got Darth Ryvan, and then we got Kaan, and then of course right at the tail end of it we got Bane. So Kaan grew up at the tail end of this period, became a Jedi, became, I think, a Master. I am not 100% sure. Let me see. No, he was not a Master according to anything I'm seeing here. Yes, I have the wiki in front of me just because there are minor details I don't like leaving you guys not included on. But he doesn't look like he was a Master, but he was considered highly valuable to the Jedi High Council because of his battle meditation. Whenever a Jedi pops up in history during wartime, the Jedi treat them like they're, the hottest shit around. Mostly because the Jedi seem to always need a pick-me-up when it comes to battles, for some reason. Mostly, I think it's because the Republic fights for shit. But then, Kaan, kind of like Ruin, or if you want to call him Fanius, which, that name always just gets me, Fanius. No wonder he changed it. Just like Ruin, he kind of just seemed to go, you know what, I'm going to join the Sith, and not only am I going to join them, I'm going to, lead them. And he kind of went into the many fractured Sith warlord states and kingdoms and whatever you want to call them all over the galaxy, and he united them in a way that they hadn't been united in probably a couple hundred years at that point. We don't really know all of the wars, all of the campaigns, everything that went on in the 1,000-year period, because it was 1,000 years. Legends doesn't really get into all the shit that went on during the new Sith Wars. All we're led to believe is that by the end of the 1,000-year time period, the Republic was just so utterly tired of fighting that it was probably why Kaan came so close to beating them. It was just that they were done. They couldn't handle it anymore. But Kaan comes in. He takes over the Sith. He unites them under his own banner. And he starts waging some pretty hefty battles, campaigns on the Republic on the fringes, which at this point the Republic fringe is probably, the mid-rim, probably the inner rim, maybe the colonies. And what I find ridiculous is that it says, the Jedi High Council, said, oh, thank you, Kaan, for uniting all these disparate Sith factions and keeping them away from the Republic, because we're led to believe, by what we're told, is that the Republic and the Jedi are kind of lying to the public at this point by saying, oh no, we're just fighting illegal organizations in the Outer Rim. It's not a real war. It's like, in the Bane books, we see Republic convoys and Republic armies going up against Sith armies, so I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but, it's Star Wars, weird shit like that happens. We're fighting an insurgency, it's not a real war, it makes total sense, shut up. And Kaan, he takes back Korriban, That's always a one-up for any Sith Lord who just goes, hey, Korriban? Ours again. He attacks several worlds. I don't know why I said worlds like that. He takes Kashyyyk, for one. He hits Trandosha. And, he starts to make a big push into the core world. He is close to attacking Coruscant, from what I hear and remember reading. He didn't actually hit Coruscant, but he's getting close to. Brental 4, Chandrilla, those worlds, they start to get attacked by the Sith. And, at this point, the Republic is so dead and, stagnant that what's not discussed a lot is that there are a series of Supreme Chancellors of the Galactic Republic who are themselves Jedi. And I find that kind of interesting since, it's kind of retroactive lore. But the idea in Episode 3 that the Jedi are trying to seize power in the Republic kind of holds more weight when it comes to the public opinion of them doing so, if you actually consider the fact that in the past, the Jedi have actually held political seats of power before. And during this time, the Supreme Chancellor is, I don't know if they are Jedi, but the last couple have been Jedi. And then eventually we get the one Supreme Chancellor, Valorum, who I think is distantly related to the Valorum in Episode 1. Probably. But Kaan is making all these moves. He hits Kashyyyk, he takes Korriban, blah, 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 blah. And he eventually hits Ruusan, because Ruusan is a staging point from the Mid-Rim into the core worlds. And he needs it. He needs it to hold on to his campaigns that are going on there. And the Jedi don't seem to actually be defending the core worlds, but that's when Lord Hoth and the Jedi Lords form this grand council, and they actually hit back at Ruusan to cut them off. And the Army of Light versus the Army of Darkness, it's kind of strange, but interesting all the same. And we know what happens. Bane comes. He sees that the Sith Order itself is bastardized. He views Kaan as not really much of a Sith Lord. He views him more as a general with the Force more than he actually is a Sith Lord, and I'll talk about that in a second, kind of. And he sees him as a betrayal to the original ideals of what it means to even be Sith. And more on that in a second, too. And, just to get it out of the way, Ruusan has, 7 battles? Some with Sith victories, some with Jedi victories. They almost wipe out the Jedi twice. And then at the final battle, the Jedi almost wipe out the Sith. But then Bane, Darth Bane, tricks Kaan into using the Thought Bomb. And the Thought Bomb, ancient Sith Force technique, now retroactively lore-wise connected to the stupid Nathema thing. It isn't really, so I'm not even going to freaking give it any credence. Ancient Sith technique. Sith Lords, dark side users come together, they form a circle, hold hands, they chant, they channel the Force outwardly, creates this orb-like thing in the air, full of Force energy, sucks out, the Force around it, kind of sucks light into it while also pulsating light outwardly. Once you start putting your own essence and energy into the Thought Bomb, it kind of won't let you go unless you're super powerful and in control. And even Kaan kind of lost control of himself at the end. And it's essentially a mass suicide because the Sith were retreating into this cave. The Jedi follow after. And Kaan, having lured Lord Hoth in there, not all the Jedi, just some of them, because they kind of sensed that there was probably something off about it. But Kaan detonates the Thought Bomb with simply clapping his hands, and the bomb, the thing that is floating in midair, just kind of goes outwards, blasts everything within the vicinity, absorbs the Force. It absorbs your essence, both corporeal and non-corporeal. Your essence, your very being in the Force becomes absorbed into it, so you're not even allowed to essentially become one with the Force. You are sucked into this void of endless torment, which is like, I hope you enjoy it, Kaan. That's really worth it, isn't it? I mean, hell, the spirits of Marker Ragnos, Exar Kun, and Ajunta Paul are probably all going, damn, buddy. It's better to just die if you're just going to torment yourself for eternity. Bane obviously didn't think he was that smart, and he kind of proved him right. And, of course, we get the creation of the Valley of the Jedi, because the Thought Bomb detonation not only kills anything that can touch the Force within a certain vicinity, it also creates a great Force nexus, because you're kind of feeding off all of the energy of the Force that was there before, that's kind of been channeled into this central region. And Kaan's dead, and then we get the destruction of the Brotherhood of Darkness, which was his version of the Sith, and the creation of the Order of the Sith Lords, the rule of two, Darth Bane, and it was all part of his plan. But now that the history's out of the way, let me discuss Kaan for a minute. The Brotherhood of Darkness, why a lot of people don't think that it's that good of a Sith philosophy, is because Kaan came in, and in order to unite all the Sith Lords and the factions around him, he came up with an idea. He does away with the idea that there is a central, singular Dark Lord of the Sith. And he wants to make the Sith kind of equal. So he labels everyone who graduates Korriban or any of the other Sith temples, I think, that are operating at this point across the galaxy, to Dark Lord of the Sith. You're not a Sith Lord, you're a Dark Lord of the Sith, which elevates you to a position that in the ancient Sith edicts made you the most powerful Sith Lord. Exar Kun was the Dark Lord of the Sith. Revan was the Dark Lord of the Sith. For a time, Malak was the Dark Lord of the Sith. Vitiate was the Dark Lord of the Sith. Marco Ragnos, Naga Sadow, Ajanta Paul, Dark Lords. Then there were Lords of the Sith. Ulic Keldroma, Malak for a time. All the mini Sith Lords within SWTOR. You could say Darth Sion and Nihilus and Traya maybe, but they were kind of in their own right individually Dark Lords, but I've already talked about them and I might need to talk about them again. And that's kind of a novel idea to subtract a kind of intermediary point between what it means to be Dark Lord and then Sith Lord, and then you have the many underlings that serve your purposes as a Sith Lord. Because Kaan believed that he could get rid of all the Sith infighting if he could somehow elevate everyone to equal status. Which already you start to see one of the problems with the Sith Code. Because the Sith Code, peace is a lie, there's only passion, through passion I gain strength, through strength I gain power, blah 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 blah. Through passion, there's strength, power, and victory. So, if I work really hard and get more powerful, and, strong, strength, power, passion, doesn't that mean that if I become, to a certain point, more powerful than my peers, I should be recognized as being more powerful than my peers? And Kaan's like, no. You are a Dark Lord of the Sith. You are equal. Equal to everybody. Don't say that you're better than them, because you're not. He's the only one who is considered to a degree better than everybody, because he was labeled by many of his followers as the Dark One, which is kind of, his Order's way of making him the most powerful. But even then, he was just one Dark Lord, but he was the most prominent and seen by many of his followers as this kind of inspirational, revolutionary Sith figure, because so many Sith were enamored with him, a lot of them being fallen Jedi, but a lot of them also being, ex-warlords themselves. They were kind of enamored by him, because with his battle meditation and with his strong tacticianary skills, he was able to do what a lot of them weren't able to. He was able to contend with the Republic and the Jedi kind of head on. Probably because he was a Jedi at one point. He had lived in the Republic at one point, and his battle meditation made him more battle-minded, so he was more keen to the ways of fighting warfare. That it's not true for everyone with battle meditation, but obviously, as Bane calls him a dirt general, as opposed to a Sith Lord, that means that he had an understanding of tactics, of fighting battles on a battlefield. He wasn't super concerned with the Force in that sense, and that's one of the reasons why Bane didn't like him. He got rid of the title of Darth because he thought that Darth was one of the significant pieces of the ancient Sith that drove division between them. Being a Sith Lord. For instance, let's go to SWTOR, because as much as it may shit on a lot of other lore, it does add some critical pieces that are not without merit. In the hierarchy of the Sith Empire, in the Old Republic, if I can speak right, era, you kind of had warriors and apprentices and all that. But then you had lords, you had Darths, and then you had like the Dark Council Darths. But being a lord didn't make you a Darth. A Darth was above you because you shed your old identity and became something new, even if you Revan becoming Darth Revan, Malak becoming Darth Malak. It's not, it's kind of up to the person themselves. Exar Kun, Ula Kildroma, they didn't take Darth monikers. I'm not sure at that point in the real universe, Darth was this thing that was kind of just given out willy-nilly to anyone. But for all we know, within the universe, they could just put it up to, Exar Kun didn't really care about that type of shit. Which, for me, that's fine. I don't need all of my badass Sith Lords to take on the Darth moniker anyway. And that's another reason why Bane didn't like Kaan, because he thought that the Darth moniker was a sign of power. It gave someone a new purpose in life, a new identity. When you became a Sith, you became more powerful, you became stronger. You achieved your victory, you became victorious over your old identity, who you were before. The miner in Darth Bane was dead. The boy, what was his original name? Because it was right here on the tip of my tongue. Dessel. Dessel is dead. Darth Bane now lives. Apatros, he doesn't even want to remember Apatros because it doesn't matter to Darth Bane. It might have mattered to Dessel, but to Darth Bane it doesn't matter. It's a new identity. Kaan did not let them strip themselves of their identity. He made them hold on to it. He gave them equal status, and he kind of... The Brotherhood of Darkness... The reason why a lot of people don't consider it that strong of a Sith Order is because it operated kind of on tenets of what made the Jedi Order. There was a council. Kaan had a superior voice like the Grandmaster did, but his kind of voice wasn't always 100% of the time guaranteed to be absolute, although a lot of the times it was, because he had the backing of many of the Foot Sith on his side, and none of the other lords thought themselves capable of really leading the Sith to victory as he had multiple times. Excuse me. There are multiple masters, there are multiple knights, there's lots of Padawans within the Jedi Order, there are multiple Dark Lords, and as a Dark Lord, you are a Sith Lord, so they kind of cut out the middleman. So you are either an apprentice, or you are a Dark Lord. There's no in-between for the Sith, so he mainstreamed it. And he didn't even really form an empire. Kaan was not an emperor. He might have, but the Brotherhood of Darkness was just a Brotherhood of Darkness. It wasn't even the new Sith Empire. The new Sith Empire had collapsed probably sometime after Ruin was killed. The new Sith Empire was just the first empire, the first gathering of Sith after the old Sith Wars had ended and Vitiat's fall and all that, to actually contend with the Republic and the Jedi during the beginning of the 1,000 years of, the Galactic Republic Dark Ages. I should just say Galactic Dark Ages. And Kaan doesn't get a lot of respect. And that's mostly because a lot of us kind of internalize the views of him, of Darth Bane. But let's give him some credit here, like I've said before. He brought the Sith together. He created a new order. It's not really the Brotherhood of Darkness, that's the name of his order, but the order was the Order of the Strong, which basically meant if you were strong enough, you went from apprentice to Dark Lord of the Sith. Boom, you're a Sith, that's it. But Bane, through his ideas and coming from a Revan and all that, said, yeah, the Order of the Strong is all good and all, but there needs to be room for people who are actually stronger to get stronger. You know, there needs to be a point where, yeah, I'm good, but if someone is better than me and they kill me, then they need to become stronger, they need to kill me, and then they need to continue the cycle until we get so strong and so powerful over this endless growth that the Jedi and the Republic and whoever else can't actually resist us. And his idea of forming the Rule of Two was to limit that, because the Brotherhood of Darkness had become so widespread that they let anyone who could prove themselves capable enough become a Sith. And that seems more like a Dark Jedi type thing, because there are differences between, if I can speak right, there are differences between a Sith and a Dark Jedi. And Kaan kind of, while he had the strength, and he was powerful within the Force, as we are told. I mean, he did help create the Thought Bomb. He was its controller for a time being. Debatable on whether or not he actually controlled it. And he was known for using mind control and all that types of things, and battle meditation. He did not care about the Force all too much. But he just didn't concern himself with it. He concerned himself with getting all these members into his Sith Order. It didn't matter what they were, what their backstory was, as long as they could prove themselves capable of becoming from this level to this level, lower level to higher level, then they were in. They didn't really have to go through any trials and tribulations. I mean, they were still, like, you know, crazy. They still allowed their apprentices to murder each other on Korriban and all that stuff. But it wasn't that big of a deal for them if they didn't do it. You know, if someone was pathetically weak, but they managed to pass the mundane trials of Korriban, and then they would be elevated to Dark Lord of the Sith. And if they're equal with anyone, who is really going to go out of their way to challenge that weak individual? Because what do you gain out of it? You might gain, like, what? His base of power, and that's it? You're just a Dark Lord. No one else within the Sith Order is going to respect you as being anything other than a Dark Lord. And since a Dark Lord is so widespread, what's the enamorism? What's the greatness? Enamorism's not a word. I made it up. What is the quality of being called Dark Lord? Because Kaan is the only one who has some sort of measure of power above everyone. And in that regard, he's kind of intelligent, because while he made everyone within his order equal, he was still greater than them. He still held more power than them. He had charisma, he had strength, and he had a measure of intelligence. He didn't concern himself with the Force too much. He didn't concern himself with all that, you know, garbage of learning the deeper meanings of the Force or the dark side. And Bane kind of brings that up. That Korriban had become stagnant because, you know, Korriban is always filled and always going to be full of the dark side, but in the coming of the Brotherhood of Darkness is that it becomes so stagnant because they're not really doing anything with the dark side of the Force. They're just kind of teaching everyone, here's what it means to be Sith, kind of. You're all going to become Dark Lords of the Sith, kind of. You all don't need to learn all that stupid old dark side shit. All you need to know is how to use your lightsaber, how to push and move things with the Force, how to kill people. Boom, you're Sith. There's no higher learning. There's no understanding the deeper meanings. There's no empowering yourself with the dark side. There's no becoming more powerful within the Force. It's just your current level of strength. Is it good enough? Good, you're in the Sith. While Bane was like, what's your current level of strength? Get as strong as you can, get an apprentice who hopefully gets stronger than that, have them kill you, and continue the cycle until there is someone who's so powerful that we just win. Kaan bastardized the Sith, but he also mainstreamed it. And mainstreaming the Sith almost led him to victory, and that's what a lot of people don't seem to remember, is that he was on the doorstep of taking Coruscant. He was on the doorstep. He was in the core worlds. The reason why Ruusan was so important was because if the Jedi cut him off at Ruusan, his ability to fight the campaigns in the core worlds would have been compromised. He had Kashyyyk, he had Trandoshia, he had a bunch of other worlds, but he needed Ruusan as a staging point. He didn't have the staging point like a general, as a general like he was. He considered that world and that system very important. That's why the Jedi tried to cut him off. But Bane was like, we don't need all these, pathetic people you're letting into this order. We don't need all of them. If you had become stronger within the Force, if you had come to understand the dark side, if you had listened to the code of the Sith and actually tried to give a damn, you would be so powerful that you wouldn't need an army of lackeys. You just bend the Republic and the Jedi with a snap of your finger. But because you let so many weaklings in, so many people who weren't concerned with what it meant to be Sith, more than just the name and the title, the fad of being a Sith, you've turned the Order into just this nothing that anyone can join. But I think that, in spite of that, we don't give Kaan a lot of credit. Was he a Dark Lord of the Sith? Yeah, he was a Dark Lord of the Sith, as were basically every one of his followers. The Brotherhood of Darkness was a Sith order under the Order of the Strong, is it? I always forget. After I mention it, I always forget what it is. Brotherhood of Darkness. I just want to bring it up because it's kind of an interesting... It's just an interesting way to put it. Order of the Sith Wars. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. That's Darth Bane. It's going to bother me for a while, isn't it? Hold on a minute. Rule by the Strong. Sorry. That took a lot longer than it needed to. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Fuck it. I'll write it. We'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. The Rule of the Strong was the founding kind of edict of the Brotherhood of Darkness. Like the Rule of Two is the founding edict of the Order of the Sith Lords. Same thing, just what their core purpose is. And the Order of the Strong doesn't really mean anything. It just means if you're strong enough, then you're Sith. But Bane was like, no, you need to become stronger than what you are. Train someone to become stronger than that. And continue the cycle until there's so much power concentrated in one or two individuals that they can bend the entire galaxy to their will, which eventually Palpatine did. So he proved his order to be the correct one, but Kaan, with his Order of the Strong, mainstreamed the Sith so much that they became so widespread and to a degree outnumber the Jedi and the Republic to the point where they were the only Sith order to come closest to militarily conquering the Republic. Vitiate was close. To a degree, Kaan was kind of close. Revan was close. Malak was close. Naga Sadow was close. But his was on the doorstep. It was within their reach. Had Bane not hated the Brotherhood of Darkness so much and been so philosophically zealous towards the ideals of what it means to be Sith as opposed to the eventual victory of this version of the Sith, the Brotherhood of Darkness might have actually conquered the Republic. And there might have been this weird quasi-Sith kind of warlord state, maybe an empire in its place, but we'll never know. And I just kind of wanted to bring him up because I think that not a lot of us give him any credit, and I think he deserves some. I think that the Brotherhood of Darkness is a very interesting idea. Trying to equalize the Sith is seen as an impossibility on many levels, but he tried. He almost succeeded, but because he lessened what it meant to actually be Sith, he made some pretty powerful enemies. And, because of that, he was tricked into using the thought bomb, and he killed himself and lots of other people, and created the Nexus and the Valley of the Jedi on Rusan, which good old Jarek and Kyle Katarn fought over, and Desan, and, all that jazz. So, trying to keep it shorter than usual, and I think I'm succeeding at going on 40 minutes now. That's kind of my Sith Lord ramblings on Skier Kaan. Call him Lord Kaan. What do you guys think of Kaan? I think he's interesting. I don't think that he's a particularly good Sith Lord. I don't think that. I don't think that he's, he deserves to be in anyone's top 5, necessarily. Top 10, maybe. But top 5, no, he's not going to make my top 5 list anytime soon. But I think he's an interesting divergence from the run-of-the-mill Sith Lords that had come and gone up until that point. I think he tried something new, and I think that ultimately it proved itself to be incapable of managing what it meant to be Sith. Militarily, he did well. Philosophically, he had no real basis of Sithism. It was just kind of this band of warlords and killers who were brought together under the title of Sith, as opposed to being what it meant to be Sith. And I think that, in spite of that, it's still interesting to see that he got as far as he did, all under the banner of being Sith, whether or not you actually think he is or not. So what do you guys think of him? Tell me what you think. I hope that this will hold you guys over until I get my big project out soon. Kind of funny that I call it the big project since it's going to be shorter than this video. But you all will see that in time. So, until then, thanks for listening, watching, blah, 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 blah. Like, favorite, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.